There's 50 languages.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
It's really.
Cool stuff.
Okay, I think we'll get started. I think I'm okay to start from the booth up top there, Rick. Okay, for our final session today, I'm pleased to welcome Art Pakatar, who's vice president of the Pakatar Group. Art's been a great support in helping make this conference happen, and we're really excited to welcome Art to the program. He's the principal of the Pakatar Group, a consulting and training firm focused on residential construction, energy efficiency, and code compliance. He's a New York State certified code enforcement official and holds ICC credentials as energy code inspector and plans examiner. He has lots of experience delivering technical education, trained code officers, designers, builders, and developers across the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and throughout the U.S. He holds professional certifications for the International Code Council, the Association of Energy Engineers, the Building Performance Institute, FIAS, and ResNet, and is recognized as a subject matter expert in residential codes and high-performance building practices. Please welcome Art Pakatar.
Okay, good afternoon. Just because I have a lot of experience doesn't mean I'm good, so don't get your hopes up. All right? And it's tough. Kevin had it nice this morning. Everybody was bright-eyed, eager. They heard about the energy code. That's all they care about. And this afternoon, we had lunch, right? So I got a tough one. Anyway, thanks. I'm going to bring it to the residential code because everybody forgot with electrification that, oh, by the way, we have other codes besides the energy code. And I also understand that nobody paid any attention to anything other than the electrification word and forgot that there was a whole new energy code as well. But that's not my problem today, that's Kevin's. So we're going to go through the residential code. It's just, this session's really just about avoiding mistakes. It's not about memorizing the code, even though I'm going to point out some code-specific stuff. I don't expect you to memorize everything that comes out of here. I'm just going to try to translate what changed into what it means for you, hopefully, anyway. I'm going to skip that slide. I'll probably skip this too because Kevin asked earlier, but we've got a handful of code officials, right? And we've got some builders. We had a teacher earlier, I got that too. And we have some designers left. All right, great. Fortunately, for all of you, I think anyway, I've worked as a designer, I've worked as a builder, I hold credentials as a code enforcement person, I work with the codes. Guess what? I speak all three languages. So it's one that Wordly doesn't translate into, but I understand the problems of every one of you, so I try to put that into perspective when I'm training. So hopefully that'll help us through. The other thing is, if you have questions during this, ask them. If it's, timely or I can stop, we'll stop. I'm hoping to leave time at the end to, even though everybody's will be itching to get out by then, to ask some questions. So, but let's have a dialogue. Let it be you and me just having a conversation here. So if you got questions, let's talk them back and forth. Like Josh said earlier, that he likes to learn from these events as well. And I have open ears and open mind, so I like your feedback as well. So we've got all of these guys, all these folks here. That's great. And, in this new code, well, in your day-to-day work, but in the new code, what do you guys find is your biggest challenge coming, every day building? I know the code officials, their biggest challenge is probably I'm speaking for you, but, there's a new code here. I've got to get everybody on board to understand what it is I'm asking for so we can start getting the plans. The designers, you probably are saying, what do I need to design? It would have been nice to know 6 or 8 months ago what I needed to do for my projects that are now. Would have been nice to have the tools like ResCheck and ComCheck and so on already built. They were in the works, by the way. I'm a private consultant, but I am a contractor for NYSERDA too. So I work with Chris Scroy, who was here this morning, and I can tell you that we had put all that stuff out for proposals. It was under contract, and we got it done as fast as we possibly could. You got to remember, the code really wasn't finalized until like September or so. So it was hard to get. And plus, the people who do ResCheck and stuff they're also a government agency. If you can imagine how hard your life is, try taking 2 government agencies and trying to get them to agree to do something. Doesn't work. So anyway, hopefully, maybe one of these 4 are your biggest challenge. We're going to talk about the fire separation part of it today anyway, because that's a big there's a new emphasis on some of that stuff as well. I'll try to keep the energy part out of my head, but they go hand in hand, and that's why I liked having the residential code with the energy code today. We're going to cover, kind of what's changed. We're going to talk about some changes with administrative requirements and documentation. We're going to talk about life safety and fire and life safety changes. And I am only going to mention energy code because I don't want to have to change my presentation every time I do it. And it's still in there. You guys got enough energy code today, but it doesn't hurt to reinforce a few things. And then we're going to talk about some structural and deck updates. There's a lot of changes in the deck world as well. And then what kind of action items or what kind of risks that you all are seeing out there. Right? You don't need every code detail to avoid, you just need to avoid the risks involved with not complying with it. So I'm hoping today you'll get out of what we're doing, you'll be able to spot the key changes in the code, because that's, if it didn't change, we've already been doing it, let's just keep doing it, right? We'll be able to apply these changes in the code in real projects. We'll also hopefully be able to avoid costly mistakes. Avoiding costly mistakes is going to come from a lot of thinking about your project ahead of time, thinking about what's needed ahead of time. Your resources. All right. As you all here probably know, maybe you don't, but our code, the 2025 Residential Code of New York State, is a modified version of the 24 IRC. Just like all our codes, they're modified from the International Code Councils. So that's your biggest resource, is our code. Don't follow the IRC so much. You want ours. There were a lot of significant differences in ours than there is in the ICC version. So, however, having said that, one of the books I do like is the code commentary. It's the code and commentary from the International Residential Code. Even though that's not specific to New York, it is very handy for you. The commentary covers the explanation of why and really what kind of it means. It kind of puts it in layman's terms for us. And so that's handy. There's also a book that the ICC puts out that's called Significant Changes of the International Residential Code. That's a handy book as well. But again, remember, don't take it verbatim, because It is not the New York specific version. So, but my stuff today is based on these three things. How do you get the codes? Now, if you're a code official, Kevin and I been talking back and forth this week. NYSERDA funded purchase of a bunch of code books for the code officials. It's been dealt with through the DOS, and there was a survey that was put out last year sometime asking every jurisdiction how they wanted their book, whether it was a PDF or whether it was a hard copy. However you responded is how you got it. The PDFs have all been sent out. The PDF rights or permissions have already been distributed. I believe the hard copies have not come yet or are coming. So if you're an authority having jurisdiction here and you don't have your book, if you replied to that survey, which I think almost everybody did, you should be getting it. Yes.
Thing about that, I was at a state training. Got our books.
You should have your
For
books.
at least a month or two.
They actually did a pretty good job getting them out to print, getting them ready, which I'm surprised. And it's nice that this time it's a New York version rather than having to go to the ICC version and then take our amendments and then take our past amendments and so on. But thank you for that. So you can get the books at iccsafe.org. If you don't want to purchase them, you don't have to. There's a free version of the New York State on there. It just limits you into what you can do. You can't cut and paste, you can't search, well, you can't use the AI search type of things. But it's free, it's the complete code, you can open it. If you've got if you use your computer, if you're Windows, I think it's, what is it, Clip It or whatever, something you can snip.
Shift, Windows,
Yeah,
S.
yeah. I use a program called Snagit, and I can screenshot anything. That will also allow me to turn it into text if I wanted to copy it. So you can still get it. You just can't copy it, right from them straight. You could take screenshots. So again, that's iccsafe.org. That's the International Code Council. And you could subscribe to their premium version, which allows you to do all that stuff. I subscribe to all of New York's and all of the ICC versions, and I think I pay about $70 a month for it. So I have to say I'm in it every day, so to me it's worth it. But I don't have counsel or budget people to answer to. I do. I just say to myself, do you want to spend it? And I say, yes, and so I do. Unless it's something big, I have to ask my wife, and then the answer is always no. Another place to use codes is upcodes.com. I love upcodes. It's simpler, it's more direct. I like it too because it has all the states in it. ICC doesn't like them. They're back and forth in lawsuits all the time. But there's free versions of it. It's limited to what you can do with it, but it's very robust. If you have the subscriptions, they have diagrams. When you search their stuff, it's a much better search than the ICC, as far as I'm concerned. So that's another place. There's no excuse not to have the codes because they're available for free either place. Again, for code officials, man, your department's got to, if you didn't get them from the state, you got to pay for them. It's your tools, right? They got to pay for them. All right, so that's just a little bit on that. Let's talk about some of the administrative changes. The first one is information on construction documents. In section R106, it talks about this. Now, this is a little bit condensed. right? But if you go to the energy code, you're going to want to see a whole list. There's 19 items at a minimum that they want on the construction documents for the energy code. As far as our specific things, and these are all New York specific, they have to be clear. They have to be clear. Clearly define the work, the location, the nature of the work, the extent of what's happening. They want to be able to be, I've seen some plans, and I can only imagine what you code officials have seen out there. You know, you talk about napkin sketches, that would be a good thing some days. So I think maybe some of this bark on here, or a 2x4, a set of plans on a 2x4. Depending on what you're doing, that really doesn't work. It's also hard to file, right? Well, it's not hard to file with a file, but it's hard to file with your work files. So the point is, give a good set of plans, right? Make them clear. Make sure they show all the work that needs to be complied with or that conforms with the uniform code, the energy code, and other applicable stuff. If there's something, we keep talking about manufacturer's instructions today, right? If there's something that's required, it's a new specific fireplaces, right? The old fireplace boxes, they have to be UL standard. Well, I remember years ago, I'm from down near Albany, and it was a town down near Clifton Park. Guys probably maybe know of it. They had a big issue with fireplaces. I'm talking back in the late 80s or so. And ever since then, it's been really important that the fireplace installation requirements and that UL approval part of it has been provided, right? Now, what else do we have to provide? We have to provide manual J's, right? Many people use the res check. You know, it's not required, but many people use it. I would say more so than ever now, I think it's a great tool to use because of, in the Energy Code 408, R408, with the option, the additional items that are required, it provides a tab for you to do the check off of what they are and keeps a running total. So the CEO, when he's reviewing, he's just got to look at that certification page, and it'll say 15 out of 10 selected, and it's okay. You want to know what they are eventually, but you could do a quick review. So ResCheck is even better now, and now we have a New York State one. So you're welcome. I say thank you, too. I fought over it. So, again, show compliance, provide the required documentation, manual J's. Hey, folks, please read those. Learn to understand them. Find out what they are. There's too many mechanical guys out there. I'm going to take my nice hat and bad hat off. There's too many mechanical guys out there that don't submit them till later. They prepare them based on what they want to put in and not what is actually required. I have this fight all the time. I'm also a HERS rater, so I get these, and we have to review them as well, and I send them back. It's a fight with the mechanical guys all the time, and that's why I'm ready to fight with them over heat pumps, because I've been fighting with them over everything forever. But read those, understand them, take them on your inspection, and make sure what's on the manual S matches what was installed. All right? Otherwise, it's a waste of everybody's time and effort, and we're not getting anywhere. So make sure your required documentation is there, whatever is required by the code and specifically by your jurisdiction. Oops, too fast there. Make sure the drawings are to scale, right? It actually says that in there. Trying to move down to my notes a little bit. Make sure the dimension drawn to scale, legible. Now there is also, how many of the code officials here, does your jurisdiction take online permits? Ever? Good, good. If they don't, that's another program coming out from NYSERDA, is that we're setting up online permit application software for any jurisdiction in the state that wants to do it. So tell your bosses to keep their eyes open. Maybe they will, or if you're the boss, keep your eye open. Pay attention. We're going to be paying for at least a year of it and helping get set up and offer training on it and so on. That's good news to the rest of us, right? It's a lot easier to submit things online. The clock isn't there. If you're in a jurisdiction where somebody's only there part-time or whatever, you don't have to wait till they're open and so on and so forth. But you got to make sure, you scan that napkin before you send it in with the application. Otherwise, you can't just submit that in person, right? And anyway, so that's the first part. Let's make sure that our plans are clear, the scope is well-defined, they show compliance. One of the things on the energy code is going to tell you, you've got to choose the path, the compliance path that you're going to be following. You've got to, in some cases, you've got to show a lighting power density now, even in residential. In some cases, you have to show those options where you're getting the 10 points. Well, if you're using ResCheck, it's right there, right? So those are some of the things, besides having that red line that Kevin was talking about before, showing us where the air barrier is. But don't go out in the field, look for the red line. Nobody ever paints it on there. I've been looking for it for years, and everybody looks at me crazy. Make sure you've got the required documentation. You're going to hear a theme from me on this whole presentation is documentation, prior planning, and it makes everybody's job simple. And guess what? All your clients, yes, even the code officials, they're your clients, get the building that they're looking for, right? And we're all happy, and hopefully we've all made some money along the way. After all, I don't know about you guys, but that's why I come to work. Plus, I love this stuff. It's cool stuff, watching the buildings go up and being a part of it and making them more resilient and durable so they're there. When you're gone, Kevin's gone, your kids will be enjoying the fruits of your labor. So, and that's what I look forward to. Not going, just enjoying the fruits of my labor. Although some days. Anyway, more information on that's required on the plans. Braced walls, right? Last couple of codes, we've been starting to get the bracing in, talking about braced walls and so on. The last cycle, I think I was in high school the last time we had a new code. No, it's every 3 years, right? It's just at 5 years. That was quick this time. The only reason we got it before then, the last one before that, the only reason we got a new code then was because the stimulus money, the ERA money they were throwing around to get states to adopt new codes and save money and get to 95% compliance and all that. And then nobody did anything about it. And our standards have all rolled back to before then. Anyway, braced walls. It's up and up and up. Now we want all the location of the braced walls, we want them shown, right? We want to specify the methods that we're using, whether it's a site-built or a panel. There's two different terminologies. Make sure you've got what it is you're going to do. Show the locations, right? The plans have to clearly indicate that these requirements are going to be met, right? The inspections are going to verify all the braced locations, wall specifications. They have to match the plans, right? So there's another thing. You're going to do the work early, so when they come out and inspect it, they don't say, where's your braced plan? Where's your braced walls? Where are they supposed to be? First of all, he wouldn't have given you the permit if you don't show them. So that's going to be your first delay. Time is money, right? Time is money. The longer it takes to get that permit, the longer it is before you get that final payment on that house and close it, the more interest you're going to be paying while you're building it. So show the braced walls. If you're building in flood zone areas, you have to show the design flood elevation. You've got to show that the lowest floor elevation, including the basement, you got to show what that elevation is. You have to include the V&A zone foundation anchoring details. And you have to include all sea level rise additions. So this is all part of building a more resilient home too, knowing where you're building. Even those lakes, it's not just, I show a picture here of, palm trees. We've got those here in the North Country. But, I don't know, we don't have them in Albany. I just did that for here. Anyway, you must clearly indicate how the flood design requirements are going to be met. More information, clarity on the plans. Some of the common plan review failures are missing that energy code compliance path, right? Incomplete details, so we don't really show. It's not always easy to show the air barrier. Where do you show it? If you've got a bunch of sections, do you have to show it on each section because it's different, right? You got to show it's continuous. You also have to show a detail, where it changes from the wall to the roof, we've got to show a detail of that, right? We got to call it, balloon that out or something. That's one of the incomplete details. If you just show me a red line, I don't know, how are you going to make that happen? I want to know how that's going to happen, right? My first job as a plan reviewer is to question. I'm not saying that I know better than the designers. I'm just saying that I need to know what your intention was. Because if I'm not figuring it out, how can I expect the builder to figure it out? Or how can you expect the builder to figure it out? And how are we going to know that it gets done? You don't want us all guessing and we get out there on the site and we have to fail an inspection or whoever the third party is, if there is a third party. So poor coordination, right? We're not communicating back and forth. Who's doing what? Missing or incomplete documentation. Same thing. Do I have the manufacturer's installation instructions? Do I have my manual J report? Right? Do I have the res check? This one image of the res check is where it tells me I've got my 10 required. I'm required to have 10. I've got 12 project. I just took a screenshot. The other one is, what am I going to print? If I'm submitting something using ResCheck, I submit the compliance certificate, I submit the inspection checklist, and I make sure the builder has that panel certificate so that they can just fill it out and put it where it's supposed to be. However, the panel certificate that's provided with ResCheck doesn't quite meet the new code requirements. So I've asked PNNL to see if they could modify it, but that's a huge lift for them. Give me a break. So they can write all this other stuff, but they can't make a form that. They're computer geeks. How is it hard? Right? It's all they do is mess around with computers. I could probably get my 9-year-old grandson to figure it out for me. But anyhow, right? These are the types of things that we're seeing coming, that I'm hearing about coming back, right? We want to look for that. We want to be careful. Designers, do the work early, and make it happen for us. Builders, now, we all know too, that residential, the sophistication of what we do varies, right? We may be building a little shed, we may be building a multifamily apartment project or bunch of townhouses or something like that. So, in other words, there may or may not be an architect involved, there may not be one needed. It might be the builder's doing his own type of stuff. So I'm saying it to all you guys, do good plans. Include the stuff on there. The best way one of the things I found, because I used to work as an estimator too, so when you get old like this, you've done a lot of things, right? So what I always found was when I'm estimating, I know a good set of plans because I'm looking for that information. If I can't estimate it, I can't build it, because that's what I'm doing when I'm estimating, is I'm building it. So think of yourself as an estimator when you're putting together a set of plans. Right? Just a quick question. What do you guys all think delays permits the most? I just said it I gave you a list of a few the other minute ago. I'm going to say, from what I see and from the new requirements, I'm going to say that the energy compliance path or items, the energy code stuff, that's what I see to be what's missing most. That's why I had it as number one on the list I just told you guys that you didn't want to yell out and say. I get it. It's close to 3 o'clock now, right? It's almost beer 30. It's, I get it. I got a 2.5-hour drive after I'm done, so I don't feel bad for any of you guys having to sit up here and listen to me. I sat all day, listened to these guys before I got up here.
I can get you a beer now if you want, Art.
No, thanks. Even though my car will drive me home, I better not take the chance. And this was a typo on the headline up there, but I missed it. Just a couple of reminders. These really weren't changes, but just reminders, buildings or completed projects are not to be used or occupied without a certificate of occupancy being issued by the authority having jurisdiction. Nobody's ever done that, right? You don't have any problems with people occupying buildings? Never? Because they wouldn't. That's, yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Yeah, depending on where you are. Yeah, if you have too much.
I did that one time.
US.
Don't agree with me. They have a tech.
And that's a good topic you brought up, and
Community-wide thing.
no, DOS. DOS is the only one. They have more control over they by state law are the ones responsible for the code being administered and enforced. And so I'll just use you as an example. If, for instance, he's refusing to give you a CO and you've got it lined up, you've got all your ducks in a row, everything's right. He's just being obstinate, right? Then you can call DOS and they will step in. And they've gotten a lot better with it, and they're doing a lot better responding to their helplines. They've got one for energy and they got one for regular codes.
They just implemented it.
Yes,
So they're,
yeah.
they're hoping that he
And they've been hiring people. The problem is, and just like one of the other things that I'm working on with NYSERDA is we're developing a pathway to get people prepared to go into the code official position, because what we understand is 50% of the code officials in the state are going to be retiring or leaving between the next 2 years. So in doing my research is, you guys have no clue how underpaid they are. No clue. I don't know, I mean, I see some of these salaries coming out, and I don't know how you would raise a family on that base pay.
In our area, we see a lot of code officers that do multiple jobs.
That helps, right? That helps. So respect to you guys for doing, I know that I look at it, I say, oh, I said that'd be a nice retirement job. No way in hell. To take the crap you guys get for,
It's all the bribes, they just get lost.
well, that's true. I forgot about that. I forgot about that. That's why they all walk hunched over, because they're usually under the table. So you need a C of O, and you also, if you're not following the rules and you get them too mad, they give you a stop work order. Understand that stop work order is a real serious thing. In the city of Albany, they're delivered by the police, and they're put on, because it's a legal proceeding, and you can't go on that site until you've taken care of, you've remedied it. So I have no idea why I put those two things in there, but I guess I needed an extra slide or something, but so that's it. Just make sure you get your C of O. And what I found outside of your cases, most of them are pretty decent about giving you a temporary, or, letting you do something, or maybe move some stuff into the garage without just a wink type of thing. But no living there. When I went into a house, I did a blower door test on a house last week. Guy says, I need this test today, I'm trying to get the CO. He's installing the cabinets, they're installing the water heater. I'm saying, who's gonna live here today? Whatever, just write the check, bud. Okay, so next, this is where we start getting into the interesting stuff, right? That was just time fillers before. So now we're gonna get into some more of the interesting stuff. Fire and life safety, which is all the old code official guys ever dealt with until this pesky energy code starting to get legs over the last 10 or 15 years. Now that takes up everything, and we don't get a chance to deal with the fire and life safety as much as we used to. So, which is why a lot of them are retiring. So, big changes came into the townhouses, right? So, spoiler alert. The big thing about townhouses is the separations, and quite a few of them have to be sprinklered, right? That was the compromise. Hold on to your boots. I'm willing to put Kevin's next week pay on the next code cycle. It goes to the houses too, goes to single families too. That's what took us 5 years to get a code. They were ready with most of the codes for 3 years, 3.5 years. Then they've been fighting over sprinklers since. But anyway, big changes, right? This is where it gets very confusing. And most of the mistakes are happening in this area with the new code. So first, we're going to start with the definitions, right? What is that's really what's driving everything. So my problem is I have most of my notes here memorized, but I have too many notes because they say, don't put anything on the slides. I'll speak it, and I haven't remembered it all yet. So I'm going to try to remember for you, right? Yeah, and now, oh, there it goes. But before it was changing this, Oh, thanks. That's because I'm working right-handed. I'm working with a handicap. I'm left-handed. Okay. Wall and separations. That's our first thing, right? This is where we get it wrong. There's a lot of different types of things. We'll look at that a little bit more in the next few slides. Sprinklers, we're going to talk about that some more in the next few slides, but this is a big, we're going to talk about when they're triggered. When do you need sprinklers? And that's to me, was a big change. I don't know about the builders. Probably not too big a change for the designers because it ain't coming out of your pocket, right? But you still got to work around it. Two families and garages, there's some clarifications and some stuff there. And smoke alarms and lofts. Lofts actually have a definition now, right? That's probably popular up with these weekend houses and stuff like that. The smaller ones, not the 10,000 square foot ones the guy was telling us about before. First, we'll start with the definitions, right? The code says townhouse, it's referring to the entire building, not a townhouse unit. The entire building, and it has to be 3 or more units in order to be considered a townhouse. So our 2 units are not, right? They have to be 3 or more units, and it's the entire building. Townhouse units was added, and that refers to a single dwelling unit within the townhouse. The dwelling unit, it's just a single living unit in either a one-family dwelling or a two-family dwelling, or it could be a townhouse unit, right? All of these definitions are in Chapter 2, which reminds me of something I wanted to mention to you. To me, one of the most important parts of every code that we deal with, energy, fire, building, residential, is Chapter 2, right? That's where you go to find out what it is you're talking about. When somebody refers to something, and you got to go there and look because it means something different in each one of these, not always, but like sometimes residential has a different definition in the energy code versus the building code itself. So refer to the code you're working in and refer to that definition, right? Before, just 2 seconds ago, you all probably would have thought I was talking about a townhouse when I was talking about just the townhouse unit. See? And it's not a townhouse. 1 and 2 family dwellings. Yep. So Chapter 2 is important. I also use the index a lot. If I'm using the PDF, I use the glossary a lot because it jumps me there. But mostly I do online. Where do we get it wrong? The exterior wall construction, fire separation distance, townhouse walls, all of those are dealt with now. The exterior walls under the new residential code, we're really talking about how close is your building to the property line, right? And whether or not the home is sprinklered or the building is sprinklered. Because it makes a difference. We're gonna look at that more in the next slide, but for the exterior wall construction, that must comply with the fire separation requirements you're gonna remember this now, I'm gonna quiz you on it. Table R302.1, Table 1, or Table 2. Table 1 is for non-sprinkler buildings, Table 2 is for sprinkler buildings. The fire separation distance, that's the distance measured to lot lines or to an imaginary lot line between the townhouses on the same lot. I'll show you that in a second. And the townhouse walls are just shared walls. We'll call them tenant separations. They're not tenant separations because they're not tenants, they're generally owned. But it's townhouse walls or separation walls. And here we go here. The fire separation distance now applies to walls between the single, fire separation distance, it's these purple walls. It's going to be fire separation distance between the units in a single townhouse building. If they're on separate lots, that's measured to the lot line. Right? If you look at the picture, on the left is the lot line, there looks like there's a little bit of separation. Right? But then we've got the green lines in between, those are our imaginary lot lines, just made up by the association, right? When you've got to deal with that, the interior units, those are the property lines that we measure our fire separation distance from. Little better here, right? So here we go to the green lines. The imaginary green line is the property line. The purple lines are the fire separation distance, which goes that table. I don't expect you to read it or understand it, but that's table R302.1, right? That'll tell you the walls have to be X number of feet, depending on what it is. This one's for unsprinklered. The blue lines are the, for lack of better word for me, the tenant separation. It's the common walls, right? And we learned earlier today that they not only have to be insulated, but they have to be sealed, so we don't see the frost lines on the roof where they're separated. Yeah, I was paying attention, Kevin. And sprinklers, there's exceptions for both. We're going to talk about the sprinklers here in a second. Just making sure. Here's just a, this kind of summarizes it all for you in one graphic. And if you want these slides at the end is my email. I'm happy to share them. So just email me for them. Don't call me for them or I won't give them to you. But if you email me, I'll give them to you. This is where the confusion happens. The shared walls between the townhouse units do not follow table 302.1. They follow the separation between, they require the fire resistance rating. They follow in R302.2, right? And that's from the foundation to the underside of the roof. There can be no gaps. Typically, they're 1 hour rated, or that's where we use the H channels and the shaft wall type of stuff a lot of times, right? They're governed by the separation assembly rules, not the fire distance fire separation distance. In the last code, they did a little more. They let us get a little closer with like overhangs and stuff if we built them in a certain way. This code, we got a little more clarification. See, we can't fix everything at once. Otherwise, all these code people, they don't have jobs. Guys who write, they won't have jobs. It'll all be done, and then we'll have a perfect world, and I won't have any place to teach, so on and so forth. Here's the comparison. I'm sorry, that last one wasn't. So this just shows you the distance between the imaginary lines, the whatever. It's good for reference.
Question.
Sure.
Is it,
Yeah.
single fire rate?
From the top of the foundation wall.
Cross wall?
From the top of the wall, top of the foundation wall. 2 feet on each side. Yes. Typically. What you're usually going to do is you're going to put in it needs to be a 1 hour wall. The code doesn't tell you how to build a 1 hour wall, right? So you have to get the design number, either the UL design number or the, National Gypsum or USG or somebody's book with a design number that's been tested and approved that tells you specifically how to build that. And that's one of those you need to have either on the plan or you have to have the written cut sheet there so the code official, because now, unless it's their first day seeing a building, they probably have seen it before, like you were saying earlier today. If it's the builder, they know, you've seen them build this before, you know what it is. You're not as hard on them, but anyway.
This underside,
Through sheathing, yes. And then it spreads, most of the time it spreads out 2 feet on either side. Okay. Sprinklers. Sprinklers are now required in all new townhouses that have public water supply, that have a public water main. Whether it's 1-story, 2-story, 3-story, 10 stories, wouldn't be 10 stories because it would be different code. But it's required to have sprinklers. If there's public water. If there's public water. If there's no public water main, then it's only required when it's 3 stories above the grade plane. Right? And the code tells us, in the definitions part, tells us that a public water main is a water supply pipe used for public use, controlled by a public authority. So that's it. That's the big thing. That's the biggest thing I got for you guys all day. So you can go now. Honestly, no. I mean, to me, that's was, when I was first reading the code, that was my most exciting. I don't know if it was exciting, but it got me. I said, whoa. That's a big one. And at first, I was thinking the same thing about 2 units. I was thinking side-by-side townhouses till I read it and understood it a little bit better, more, because I'm saying, that's a big change if it's the 2 units, right? But since a townhouse is only 3 units or more, it doesn't matter. So if you're building with private water, then you're good unless you go 3 stories. But if you're building 3 stories out of wood anytime, you're going to be sprinklers. So that's a big thing, and that's a thing to look for, and that's something that's a trigger, and something if you're coming up with a new project, a new neighborhood, something to know for sure, whether you've got the water supply, whether you're planning not to do that, and how you're going to want to deal with it. I was going to say, there's no grandfather on it. It is what it is. It's unfortunate, but there's reasons for it. Everything with the code has to do with safety, right? As far as it's been, they track all these accidents or incidents over the country over the course of time, and they determine that things need to be fixed. Apparently, there's a lot of fires in townhouses. It's not that.
Not a lot.
It's not that big.
Not running rigid pipe.
It's not that big a deal. The builders, and correct me if I'm wrong, they will tell you their biggest thing with sprinklers is that what if they go off during, they at least this is what I hear arguments on. Geez, they're going to go off, they're going to ruin everything on every. Yeah, they're going to ruin everything and probably save somebody's life, but they can go off accidentally, is what they're saying, and so on and so forth. They don't want it being another warranty issue. It's the big fight in the building, other than the stuff with NCON and the site stuff, but and electrification, right? Because that's going to end the whole world of building. You guys are never going to be able to build another building once you have to be all electric. I'm sorry. I do think we could do it a little bit different. We could pace our way into it, but ultimately, it's not the end of the world. In Massachusetts, they have your base code, a stretch code, and a super stretch code, right? The super stretch code is really their electrification code. If you don't want to build it all electric, then you can build the way you want, but you have to prepare it to be all electric. So when somebody wants to convert from their, change their range out, they'll have to go to an electric and so on and so forth. But it's an option. And if you think that's cheaper than building with electric, then go for it. I think that was a pretty good way to bridge the gap. Anyhow, this is another one of those slides I think is a pretty good comparison for, just hits the highlights for you. Question, is this a townhouse building? Assuming each one of those peaks is a unit. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Are sprinklers required?
Unknown.
Okay, why is it unknown?
We don't know how the
All right, assuming it has private water. No, that's 4 units.
But don't they have,
It may be how far you are from a hydrant. That might be a local.
well,
Yeah, that's a local law. That's not statewide that I'm aware of.
no.
Okay, how about this one? Sprinklers required here? Yeah. Now, I took the image anyway, but I asked ChatGPT to make me an image of a 3-unit townhouse building, 3 stories tall, and it gives me this. But it looked good, and it got through, so. But it gave me that one, too. First time it gave me that one, it made it 3 stories, even though I asked for 2. But it beats drawing it myself. Okay, so we're out of townhouses. We're all good with the townhouses. We know they may need sprinklers. We know that we've got fire separation distance issues that we have to consider. We have common buildings, what's an exterior wall? We're all good with that. Let's go to 2-family homes. They're a lot simpler, right? Been building them for a long time. Well, been building townhomes for a long time, too. It doesn't matter on a side-by-side 2-family where the lot line is. It's 1 lot or 2 lots, the separation between the 2 units is the same, right? There's no separation distance required, unlike a townhome. There's fire rating in that common wall, but there's not any separation distance. Unlike townhomes, we can stack these units. We can vertically stack the dwelling units, right? If we do, you have to provide a notification appliance in each unit that connects to the smoke alarm system in the neighboring unit. So when my wife burns dinner every night, then the people next door are going to get annoyed. Unless she really does a good job and it's like, hey, get the hell out of here. Right? Your kids aren't here anymore, right? So when there's no sprinkler system, right? If there's no sprinkler system, you need a notification appliance. Now, that's not a term you usually hear in the residential code. That comes from the fire code. Right, so if you want a better definition or options for notification, you want to understand more about it, go to the fire code. We'll hold that class at 4:55 today. No, sorry. Never if I can help it. just too complex for me. Here's the definition from Chapter 2 of the Fire Code. The fire alarm system components such as a bell, horn, speaker, light, or text display that provides audible, tactile, or visible outputs of any combination thereof. Here, we're seeing what else we've got to do, right? The red line is separation between the stairways, interior stairways that serve the upper unit must be constructed in a manner that limits smoke, transfer of smoke. There's got to be a smoke wall between the stairway and the units. The blue line is the fire-resistant rated assembly that goes between the units. And when you're looking that one up in the UL code, make sure you're getting one that's suitable for floors, right? Now, two-family dwellings are permitted to have a door between the two units in the fire resistance rated wall. You can have a door between the walls. Before, you couldn't do that. Now you can. If the building does not have a fire sprinkler system, the door must comply with Section 716 of the Building Code of New York, the commercial code, right, for a 1-hour assembly. When the building is sprinklered, it must just comply as if you're going between a garage and a house, C-label door. Okay, that makes sense? Shared accessory rooms, if there's a common laundry room in the building. If there's a common laundry room or whatever, a common room, right? This is a new section as well, right? It recognizes that you might have shared accessory rooms that are accessible from both units in the two-family laundry room. Maybe it's a laundry room or a garage, two-family unit, like a laundry room or a garage. It's really identical to the protection required for a garage dwelling separation. Again, you need the 5/8 on the wall, or the 1/2 inch on the wall, and the one side 5/8, and then 5/8 on, depending on what the ceiling's like, or above it. And the door has to be the C label. So if you've got a common accessory space, it's got to be treated like a garage. That space is treated like a garage. So the walls are rated, the ceiling's rated, the floor, if it's on an upper floor, it's got to be rated too. All right, private garages that are attached to dwelling units, separated, like I've been saying, in table R302.6, 5/8 type X if there's habitable space above it, right? The walls are 1/2 inch gypsum and it's a 20-minute door. Detached garage. This is kind of newer and a clarification of what it's been, and people have not been, really hasn't been at the top of our list of catching it. But the garage to dwelling separation rules now apply even inside detached garages, if you create habitable space, right? Detached doesn't mean exempt anymore. If you take a detached garage and you add living space inside it, you finish it off, or you design it with separate habitable space from the start, now you created a condition where separation's required. Even though they're separate, now we're talking about that fire separation distance again. If it's clearly defined as living area, that's what triggers this requirement. Need separation, you need gypsum board separation between the garage and that habitable space. just like if it was between a garage and a house.
Whether or not there's a bed
In the,
in the garage.
that's correct. If it's habitable space, I'm sorry. So the question was, is that required even if there's a bedroom? What's that?
Or not.
Or not? It's just habitable space is what they're saying. So it's like a garage with an apartment above, or, even though it's detached, a garage with a finished room or an office inside. Convert a garage space, all of those trigger this yeah. Okay, so the question was, what if this was like a boathouse or a boat garage where the boat's below and they add living space above it? That's a good question. I'm going to, and what was the second part? Oh, an ADU, right, an ADU, yes, definitely. If it's a boathouse, I would say yes. No living space above a, oh,
Johnson, that's an APA regulation.
that, right.
Building code,
I would say it's like a garage.
I would say read the definition. If it says
Right, so I don't know, and if I have time, I'll look it up, but
You should know this, come on.
95% of my work is energy.
What about
Ah, we're required to have heat detectors in a garage anyway. So let's change that. So, you need to have heat detectors rated for garage conditions, and they have to be interconnected with smoke alarms in any garage, whether it's detached or attached, right? What? Oh, your boat slip. I don't know. I don't know. Kevin was just starting trouble. Yeah,
But we actually
Sure.
saw
see Kevin.
we saw a boathouse, Art, and that not only was there the living above, but the builder decided to vent a kitchen
In-
and laundry exhaust into
Oh, I'm not surprised. I believe that they would definitely
the, so we
exist.
had to argue about what a garage is or isn't.
Yeah, and as it was suggested, I think we'd have to look into the Chapter 2 definition of garage and see what that is. I guess I can't really answer that. I'm stumped. If I can't answer it, I want my money back too. So the smoke detectors, or the heat detector, I'm sorry, is required if you're building a new attached garage or converting a detached garage, and maybe a boathouse, to connect to the house, right? The connection is what triggers requires, yeah, is what triggers the requirement, yeah. Don't install the smoke alarm in the garage. You have to install a heat detector, and it has to be rated for a garage. So again, you're going to need a spec for that, or to prove that it is. I don't know if it's like others, maybe there's a sticker on it. Does it? That it's rated for? Okay. There's some new stuff on smoke alarms and where they're located, so we're going to go through that the next several slides. The first part is we're going to talk about smoke alarms in sleeping lofts, right? Sleeping loft can be provided in any room. We'll talk more about what the sleeping loft is a little later. I realize that I should have probably talked about that first, but, you know, I never can tell what comes first, the chicken or the egg. So, but sleeping lofts can be above a living room. It could be, you know, off to the one side, whatever it is. A smoke alarm must be provided in the room the sleeping loft opens into. They must be located in the immediate vicinity of the sleeping loft. It's the same statement for smoke alarms required outside of sleeping rooms. And NFPA 72 clarifies the maximum distance in the immediate vicinity as 21 feet. So that's probably reasonable for our purposes here. Right? This one seems simple, but it's where we miss the details and fail. Smoke alarms, they have to be installed per manufacturer's instructions. It's like we get paid like extra, it's like a drinking game. Every time we mention it, you can take a drink, right?
I have,
Oh, you looked it up?
so there is no definition of a garage. Also no definition of a motor. Part of me, I would say, well, the combustible hazard. Doesn't do the definition.
Change if you had a garage overhead door.
RVs that were registered. New
Yeah.
York State defines it as a motorized vessel instead of a motorized.
I'm going to ask DOS.
But are you,
There you go. There you go.
are you talking about a structure where,
We're talking about a boathouse.
with slips
Yes,
and a dwelling unit above?
yes.
It'd be,
Not a vehicle above, house, living, yeah, living.
if you had a space above your boathouse that had a slip and a door.
Yeah.
And they got 5 cent right now. I tell every designer, I'm not giving you an answer until I see. But in this case, I would say based on what I just read, if it's only watercraft that are being with habitable or dwelling space. Bathroom or just a game room. Boathouses do have other specific regulations, regardless of if there's an exception.
No, they don't, that's a whole different,
My gut wants to say it's a garage. You have
Yeah.
a vehicle with an internal combustion engine. That's tough in the residential code, because you're not really supposed to.
Well, this hypothetical project was in Lake Placid, and we can't do it.
He says no, you can't.
So, yeah, when they pee out the window, that's a bathroom. Okay, so you have to install, per the manufacturer's instructions, it follows NFPA 72, which tells you that. So it's not just the book or the box, you're following the national standard, right? And the residential code now makes explicit installation has to comply with NFPA 72. So if it doesn't meet NFPA 72, it doesn't pass. New to the residential code is a requirement that was last seen in the 1997 Uniform Code, right? When a hallway serving sleeping rooms open to a room with a ceiling height 24 inches or more than the hallway ceiling, right, a smoke alarm is required in that room. So in my little graphic there, the hallway and the living room show a 24-inch separation or difference in heights, so we're required to put one outside that hallway. So the reason for this is the likelihood that smoke will rise to the taller ceiling before reaching the lower and would otherwise delay activation of the alarm system. Another new one that catches people off guard, especially in townhouses, it's in common spaces. If you've got a shared spaces in a 3+ unit townhouse, like the hallways, the lobbies, the stairwells, you have to have an alarm, and they must be clearly audible. Not just inside the units, right? And remember, it has to be, the audible feature is important. When a floor area of a story exceeds 1,000 square feet, the total number of smoke alarms on that floor must be considered. This excludes the garage area, right? There are two approaches to this. The first is to be sure that all points in that story have a smoke alarm within 30 feet of travel, or smoke alarms are required for other reasons can count towards that. Can count towards this requirement. Installers are wise to carefully consider where the required smoke alarms are placed so that it can also satisfy this requirement. So it takes a little bit of thinking when you're laying these out. That. Nope. This is where the layouts start to matter. Once your area, I thought I did that already, sorry. One alarm per 500 square feet. Two versions of the same thing. How many of these am I going to have? Right? Clarification is that you can put, the smoke alarms can be in vaulted ceilings over an upper floor, like we did where we had that ceiling height difference between the hallway, provided it is placed to serve the lower floor as required. They were nice. Right? Smoke alarms near cooking areas, the rules have been simplified. It's a practical change for us, and it solves a lot of real-world issues. So the big picture is that the rules around smoke alarms near cooking appliances are just simpler. They, comes from updates to the UL standard, not just the building code. So as we were talking before about reference standards and they change, we adopted a new version of the UL and it picked it up. So, which is just another thing I wanted to, I was going to emphasize at some point, but when you're using a reference standard that, or in back up, when a code section specifies you use a standard, it's listed in the back what version, under the reference standards, what version you can use. Kevin mentioned earlier about the SRA 62.2, 2018 version is in our code, but they get updated every 3 years too. So they're probably on their 24, 22. So they, make sure you don't use that as your reference. If you're designing, use the 18 version. Use whatever's in the reference standards. Use the correct version. And when you're reviewing, same thing. The default rule keeps smoke alarms at least 10 feet away from permanently installed cooking appliances. This helps prevent nuisance alarms. I don't know. My wife actually doesn't cook, so I was just joking before. There's a reason for that. The local fire department said that they don't have enough people on staff usually, so they asked her not to cook. So I do the cooking. Well, she's eating late tonight. That's why I got a chuckle out of the nuisance alarms. So, but you can reduce that to 6 feet when needed to meet other placement requirements. So they're giving you a little bit of a leeway, right? Without saying, do what you want to do, because that's what they're really saying. Keep the 10 foot in mind. You can reduce that up to 6 feet from there if you need to. So that helps the designers a little bit with their placements, right? I point over there because that's where I think you're sitting. I don't know who is who. Sleeping lofts, told you we'd get to it, right? So what is a sleeping loft? It's a sleeping loft is a space designated for sleeping on an intermediate level or levels between floor and ceiling of a story, open on one or more sides to the room in which the space is located. It needs a permanent means of egress. It has to have special stairways, landings. It can have special stairways. It has to have landings or ladders. It needs an egress, right? For instance, in this little sketch here, they're saying that sleeping loft, because it meets the requirements of a sleeping loft, that's really only one story there. That's not two. So my smoke alarm will work out there. That goes back a couple slides. Right? It's considered part of the story it's in, just like a mezzanine. But it must have permanent means of egress. And it can have unique stairs. You can have ship ladders, alternating treads, blah, blah, blah. Tarzan ropes, I assume. Just kidding. I don't know that. They're allowed, but they're tightly controlled. There are limits on how big they can be. They have to be under 35 square feet. Right? They cannot exceed 70 square feet. If they have to be under 35 square feet, they can't exceed 70. There's some,
No, they're saying
it's
that
depends on the
it
width.
should be above 35, less.
All right, my note said under, sorry. Cannot be more than 1/3 of the room below. Right? This is what we're trying to do, is we're trying to keep people from creating full rooms in a loft area and having problems with it, right? If it's less than 3 feet wide, it may not count the same way. We would look at it, maybe storage or access, but not livable space. The minimum height is 3 feet in the required areas, and no more than half the loft can exceed 7 feet. This is not a full-height room. It's limited by design. I'm sure this will have some changes to what people normally would do. There are some exceptions tied to sprinkler systems. If they have sprinklers, they let you do a lot more. Sprinklers cure a lot of evils. Compliant loft is small, low height. Non-compliant is too big, too tall. This one's going to be real quick and easy. Energy code, just real quick. Right? It's energy code compliance equals design decisions, not something we can fix later. On the testing is required, must be on the plans. You need the 10 R408 credits. New homes equals 10, unless it's over 5,000 square feet. There you go again. The 10 credits, this is the R408. We keep emphasizing that because it's new. But it's not new to the 2024 code, it's new to the 2021, right? It's just that that's what the penalty we got for skipping. We would have had this figured out 3 years ago. But it's new to us in 2026. Just again, the tests that are required. Projects usually fail when they're either failing the blower door, missing credits, or they don't coordinate getting the information right. So the impact for the builders is plan early, coordinate the trades, expect more inspections. And folks, when you call us to schedule a blower door, don't have your painter in there touching up or painting the front door. They get pissed at us, and it's not our fault, it's your fault. That's the coordination I want. They always get mad. Well, we're just going to do a blower door test. Well, what's that? We're going to blow all this dust around into your paint. Oh, okay, yeah, go ahead, do that. That's no problem. Okay, next. Decks and structural stuff. So what's changed? There's been some design updates. There's been some flashing updates. There's been some updates on guards, right? Prescriptive deck codes have been popular in the code since the 2015 IRC. And the new residential code has some important new stuff for us to take a look at. Excuse me. Decks have always been one of my pet peeves. I always felt people under-design them and paid too little attention to. I remember I designed one for one of my brothers, and he said, "Why'd you make that so big?" I said, "Well, first of all, he's bigger than I am. He's taller and at least as wide. And so is his wife." I said, "Because you're not building a 20 by 20 deck for just you and June to sit on and read the paper. You're going to have a party on there. And when you have that party, I don't want it celebrated on the news with my name associated with it." Yeah, as they're going down. Yeah. Yeah, I know.
You probably spent up to 6 weeks, maybe 3 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
That and the fire video
Yeah.
from Beverly Hills.
Seen every major fire that's happened in New York State.
Yep. Just, if you guys aren't aware, the code enforcement officer training in New York State is one of the most stringent in the country. It's 120 hours, right?
It's 6 weeks.
It's around 120 hours of training, and it's all those courses, and they have to pass a test afterwards, but they give them the answers, so, at least they used to.
Not anymore, but
No, because a lot of it's done online now. But it's a lot. You know, I'm not here to make you guys feel great, but it's an endurance test, if nothing else, because it's boring as can be. Think of this 2 hours, how bad it is. Can you imagine all day for 3 days and then 3.5 days? It's crazy.
4 days,
Yeah, 4 days by the time you're done with,
4 days.
yeah.
What's going on?
I'm not 100% sure, but what you're supposed to be seeing is, let me see if I can. What we're supposed to really notice, other than this stupid thing there, is the flashing over here, and the flashing is really what the picture is. I don't know. You know, when you're looking for pictures at the last minute, you know, it is what it is. So anyway, the section, the good thing is they made it easier, right? It's one of the few areas that the code made easier for us. You can now use prescriptive deck tables in higher snow load areas up to 70 pounds per square foot, so fewer engineered designs. Right? You can, you don't have to, before they didn't go up to 70. They've changed that. The footings got smaller. Right now, the minimum footing diameters were reduced to, and this is important, 14 inches is no longer the default minimum for clay. They also added a smaller 5 square foot tributary area option. So they've made it a little bit easier for us with footings. They've changed how we can use 4x4s. They're letting them use a little bit longer. More often, you've expanded the use for 4x4s. I'm not crazy about that. I don't even know why you would do a 4x4. But this stuff's going to be coming up in your inspection, so make sure, because, you know, these guys have heard it, so now they're going to look for it. They knew it anyway. If you ever tried to size beams with different cantilevers, it used to be kind of a mess. Now it's a lot easier and straightforward. They took a lot of guesswork out of it. The limits are tied directly to the cantilever limits. They're tied directly to the joist span. Nice. The deck span, there's a little more flexibility in the decking itself. Those spans are now based on single or multiple spans, more design flexibility. That's good stuff there, right? Ledger flashing, some of the stuff has changed. They've got, this is one of the biggest real-world changes, right? One of the biggest inspection failure areas is the flashing. I'm glad that you're even inspecting it now. I would think, do you have much trouble getting people to use the lateral supports, like the DDTZs or what, you know, where, when it first came out, probably, right?
Yeah, we have a couple designers in the area.
Yeah,
Those.
yeah. So it's one of the flashing is one of the problems. The code now gives us options, but you have to use them correctly. No longer just one way to do ledger flashing. There's different sections for different conditions. Refer to the code, take a look at it. You can use back-drained ledger systems, workarounds with windows, doors, and rain screens, and so on. You can also use self-adhered flashing over the face of the WRB for counter flashing. So, what did you say Steve Rick calls it? tucking your pants into your shirt,
Your raincoat.
your raincoat into your pants. That's what that sounds like to me, though, right? It doesn't make any sense to me. But the code says it's okay. I have to send that to Joe.
At least one manufacturer.
Yeah. I like that.
Whatever,
Gets to put them on.
yeah.
Oh, just bend the,
I'll just bend it.
bend it or cut it.
The shape I need.
Why'd they put all these extra holes in these hangers? Yep. Guard posts. They've done some stuff with the guard posts too. They want you to, they have to resist rotation, the way they want you to install them more with, to prevent rotation. They have to be connected to framing or blocking. And they cannot notch the 4x4 posts. And lastly, you'll be surprised for me to say this, but you need to follow the manufacturer for engineered systems. You gotta follow manufacturer instructions. That sounds silly to me, but. So, we're down the stretch here. So the top 5 risks, in my opinion, I can't do the top 10s because that's DeWine.
Yeah.
Missing the R408, that's the additional efficiency items, right? We used to call them options, but they're not options anymore, they're required. Wrong separation in like the townhouses where you've got to be from the fire separation distance versus the, just a common wall type of thing. Poor documentation, we don't give them what we're looking for. Inspection failures because we're modifying deck hangers, right? And so on. Parking our boat in the garage is probably, hey, what happens if you park your boat in the garage? Is it still a garage? I mean, even if it's on a trailer.
Would be-
Yeah.
Trailers are considered,
They don't have motors.
I'm aware.
Okay. I get punchy this time of day. And flashing mistakes. Flashing mistakes are huge. All over the place, they're huge. And not just for the structure and it's the durability and the resilience of the building, the energy, because wet stuff doesn't work as well. You've got to make sure you do the flashing right. You don't need these decks falling off. You don't need the roofs premature failing, and so on and so forth. What's next? So who needs to do what? The builders, you need to build it right. Whoever you guys are, build it right, which I'm sure you are, you have been. You've been building it that way for 40 years. Why do you got to change now? Right? Or 50 years, depending on what it is. But no, make sure your fire separation is correct. The materials and the details match the plans. Make sure that you're complying with the plans in the field. The designers, make sure that you put out code-compliant plans. I know you always do. At least in your opinion, or in our opinion, too. Make sure you have the details in the assemblies. I'll give you a hint for a place to go look for some of these details that we're looking for on, at least on the energy part and maybe more. Building America Solution Center. Just Google it. Building America Solution Center. It's from PNNL, isn't it? Or no, something like that. They got CAD details, they've got drawings, they got pictures, they got references. It's a great site. They even have you can try a wall out if you want to see if your wall is good for thermal resistance and for water or moisture resistance. They've got a section on there for that. It's free, it's cool, there's no copyright problems. Building America Solution Center, if you Google it, you'll thank me. Officials, review and enforce, be nice. They're going through a lot of changes. We're going through a lot of changes. Be nice on how you deliver the news, right? But you've got to obviously do thorough. I think you've got some new checklists coming out soon. So
3 weeks ago,
last week, Ron Stark said that he was supposed to have them that week.
that's who told me that 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I know. He's been telling me that for 4 months, 5 months. But supposedly you're going to have some new checklists coming out. Don't forget that pesky certificate of occupancy as well, right? Suppliers, if there's any suppliers still here, all right? They're your biggest source. Designers, builders, even code officials. The suppliers are a great source for you. Maybe not themselves, but their manufacturers. And keep in mind, the biggest changes to the codes came in the 2021 version. The 2024 was a little tweaking and bringing it up. So they're already prepared for most of this stuff. The manufacturers who put all this stuff together that the suppliers sell their stuff already have dealt with this, except apparently Marvin Windows can't still get the glazing where we want it, right? But utilize them. They're a resource. Almost all the manufacturers have a building science person, a code compliance person. They're the ones that are there. So, and they're the leading guys. And all they hope is that you buy from them. Who knows? You might. So, make sure suppliers, make sure you get the documentation to them. If you're sending them something on the site, deliver documentation. Just like when you deliver trusses, you deliver the truss drawings and the layouts with it. Deliver the instructions with it too, so they have them. The code mindset shift is compliance. It's compliance, I think that was supposed to be an equals. Design and documentation, right? We're shifting from field fixes to design-driven compliance. We're making sure we do the work first. The other thing you're going to start seeing is the codes, as they change, are going to become more performance-driven, more design and specification-driven. There's still going to be the minimum standard, but you're going to start seeing, on the energy code, you're going to start seeing, like Kevin said, R60 was a waste of money, right? Well, he didn't specifically say it that way, but I've been saying it for a while. They aren't going to do that anymore. They're going to be more testing and verifications and proving that what we're putting in there is working. Right? The only way to do that is with the ERI path. So, anyhow. Come up with an action plan. Update your plans, train your teams, coordinate early, plan early to control your cost. If you wait, the code controls you. If you plan for these changes early, you control the cost, the schedule, and the inspection risk. If you wait until the inspection, the code will control you. And with that, I'm going to open the floor up to questions if you have any. If not, I think it's going to be happy hour. Oh, it is. You got 12 minutes. That's exactly what I planned on. But anyway, questions? Yes, sir.
Just,
No, I didn't.